Hello. Flipping through the most recent issue of Quantum and Woody, comic from Valiant, a company called Valiant Comics that came out when I was younger in the 90s. Valiant Comics has this great history to it in that it was at once one of the most powerful comic book companies, and then literally a month later it was dead. Just an interesting time, the 90s, for comic book fans. So, if you can't figure it out, you are watching Sussing It Out. This is Chapter 30. What do you want to be when you grow up? What did I want to be when I grew up? Whatever. Joker Face. Fortress of Nerditude getting even bigger. Really got to get these boxes filed. Need to find the time to do that. Hey, but sometimes life gets in the way. I have a new microphone set up just off camera. It's a Go mic that I actually forgot that I had bought a few months back for doing a podcast, Those Two Jerks. I'm going to be filming an episode of Those Two Jerks today, doing a Sussing It Out, and then tomorrow I should be doing at least one of the two. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing another episode of the Hammerfist Powwow with my buddy Jesse, and then I should be doing another Blatantly Honest comic review with Charles later tomorrow. So a lot of fun stuff in store for your favorite Sussman, the Sussman, Rick Sussman. Today's vlog, though, is called, What do you want to be when you grow up? And it was a question that I always would ask. Sorry, as I get myself in a little bit better position with my sweet Magneto was right shirt. There you go. Needed to get that on camera because I have to wear a different comic book shirt every time I do one of these vlogs, or you might not believe I'm a real nerd. At any rate, and then I say at any rate to get myself back on track because it's an audio cue. I always would ask my dad, what did you want to be when you grew up? Well, you know, my dad is obviously, in many people's cases, many years older than them. My father is a few years older than me. He is about 33 years older than me, 35 years older than me or so, a little bit more than that. I didn't sit down and do the math before I started this because, quite frankly, one take Rick doesn't do two takes. But I'd always ask him, you know, what did you want to be? Did you always want to be a writer? My dad ended up being a newspaper writer. He worked for the National Enquirer for like 25 years. Before then, he worked for newspaper upon newspaper upon newspaper. Growing up, he did sports writing. He did beat writing. He worked the crime syndicate. He did crime syndicate comics. He worked crime scenes. He was just a reporter. And I said, did you always want to be a journalist when you grew up? And my father would always reply with, Rick, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Well, I asked somebody else that I work with, I said, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he was sort of dumbfounded by the question, because the question had come up as to if I would ever be interested in running my own store again. And someday down the road, yeah, I'd love to. If the opportunity ever presented itself, pardon me, I would love to run my own shop. I ran a movie stop, the most efficient movie stop ever. I ran a smaller comic book store for a few months while the manager was actually out having neck surgery, and that was awesome. I came back to my home store, and I run like the HeroClix tournaments and things like that, but I don't do much else right now. Given the opportunity, though, I'd love to, you know, do more. So retail management may actually be what I want to do when I grow up. I know that was a really long way to get to my point, and I had to toot my own horn about half a dozen times, but hey, shameless self-promotion. We talked about this. At any rate, my hair's getting in my eyes, and there's my audio cue, I'm sorry. I actually threw myself off with my own audio cue. What do you want to be when you grow up? Start back. Why is that so important? Why do we have to have an idea at such a young age about what we absolutely want to do? I mean, there are people out there, tons and tons and tons of people who at a very early age know they're going to be an attorney, they're going to be a lawyer, they're going to be an attorney and a lawyer is the same thing. They're going to be a rocket ship pilot to the sun. They're going to be a race car driver. They're going to be a writer. They're going to be an artist. They're going to be a musician. They're going to be a veterinarian. There's tons and tons and tons of people who grow up in this world who know unequivocally from the time that they're 6 that they absolutely positively are going to be what they're going to be, and they set out to do it, and then they do it. And many of those people seem relatively happy doing what they're doing. I sort of fell into retail management. I only recently learned that my grandfather, my father's father, was a very, very prolific retail manager. He had his own store. It was like a hardware store in upstate New York. Really cool stuff to learn. So I guess, you know, the whole thing that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I consider myself a bit of a writer. I'm not on par with my father, but my father's writing is much different than my writing. I think he would agree with that. My mother's a writer too, but again, I think she would agree that my writing is far different from journalistic writing or newspaper writing. I'm a creative writer. There's a difference. My sister is a bit of a writer, but she's moved into helping others. She's always wanted to help others from a very young age. I know she always wanted to, be that person. I forget the names of these folks that they help people who can't take care of themselves. They like a social worker. My sister has always done social work. She's just wanted to help others. Very admirable, but not anything I particularly cared about. Sorry. At any rate, there's my audio cue again. I just always thought it was interesting that I never really had a focus, had a desire, had a want. I always just sort of flowed with it. In college, I studied a lot of things, but I never focused on anything. I wanted to be a teacher for a while, but to be quite honest, in this state, being a teacher is a death sentence. God bless you if you're teaching and you're trying very hard in Florida to be a teacher. It's tough work, but a male teacher in Florida, forget it. I actually have, I'd have to get it renewed, but I have a certificate in history for 5th to 11th grade. I can teach high school history. I can teach junior high history. According to the state of Florida, I'm more than qualified to do that. But the state of Florida doesn't really like its teachers right now. And to be quite honest, I don't know if I'm really that interested. I think I just went and got my teacher certificate as something to just get. I really like doing retail. I'm good at it. I enjoy it. My only problem with it is that it doesn't pay as much as I'd like it to, but I imagine most jobs are the same way. But if you were to ask me straightforward, what do you want to be when you grow up, especially when I was a kid, I never would have said a retail manager. I didn't even know what it was. And at 31, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. This sort of harkens back to a previous blog about 31-year-old rookie. What are you going to do with your life? Well, I don't know if there's anything that really has to define me. I know somebody who's an incredibly successful business person, and he's leaving everything to go do something else. This is not my boss or anything like that. This is someone completely unrelated. But he's really, 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 really successful, but he doesn't want to do that anymore. He wants to go do something else. And in cases of my boss and my father and all these other people who have been incredibly successful and doing very well for themselves, they still want to move along and go do other things. And I wonder, should we ever know what we want to be when we grow up? Because apparently knowing what you want to be when you grow up just screws the pooch. You never are certain. You're never sure. You're never certain. You're never dead on. Well, that's it. That's what I have for today. I just wanted to talk about that with you for just a couple minutes. This whole notion, this whole idea, concept, if you will, about what do you want to be when you grow up. Hopefully you respond. Hopefully you write posts or reply blogs or whatever it is we do on the interwebs, on the YouTubes. Thank you all so much for liking and sharing and viewing, and be on the lookout, of course, for more from those two jerks, the Blatantly Honest Comic Reviews, and of course, all things Team Hammerfist, thfist.com. And check out GoFundMe. There's a TS Fist, Team Hammerfist event going on GoFundMe right now, gofundme.com. I'm supposed to mention that. I have plugs for shows that I'm on and shows that I'm a part of. Is that really a plug? I don't know. I'll talk to you guys real soon. Thanks.